Hey, Eric, I've got a question for you. So why are autonomy and freedom important to you?
Yeah, so hey, this is super interesting. I was dropping my daughter off at school this morning, and I was thinking about this episode, and I heard something that it just fits perfectly. So, a very famous poet by the name of Oscar Wilde said, "Selfishness is not living as one wishes to live; it is asking others to live as one wishes to live." And we'll dig into that more. But for me, I want to be free in the sense that I can do whatever I want to do, whenever I want to, and with whoever I want to do it. So these things mean a lot to me, and yeah, we'll kind of analyze what Oscar Wilde said here in a minute.
Yeah, I can tell they're biggies for you. So
Yeah.
more on that in a moment. But first, hello, I'm Steve.
And I'm Eric, and together we are two dads with one mission.
Welcome to the 𝗙𝗃𝗲𝗃 podcast. This is the show for dads, all about fatherhood, faith, and freedom, one conversation at a time. And on this episode, have you ever thought, I want to be freer than I am right now?
Yeah, well, that's exactly what we're going to help you to, think about this week in this show about autonomy and freedom.
So, Eric, let's dig a little deeper into autonomy and freedom then.
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier about Oscar Wilde, let's break that down just real quick. So he said, selfishness is not living as one wishes to live. It is asking others to live as one wishes to live. So when I live the way that I want to live, that's not selfish. If I ask you to live like I expect you to live, well, that's me being selfish. And I think what happens a lot in life is people in relationships, family members, coworkers, bosses, and even myself, right? Like I can impose my will on other people without really realizing it, and it's kind of selfish. So I think most people desire to live free. And so one of the first areas that we want to talk about today is thoughts. Now, this might sound like a strange transition, right? But how many people, I know being in the personal development world for a long time, people are often in a prison of their own thoughts.
Definitely.
They're not free, right? What do they call that, Steve? When you can't control your thoughts, the monkey brain. I mean, there's all kinds of names for it, right? I don't know if you have any names for.
Yeah, there's monkey brain. It's been constantly caught in what I call fight and flight, but the more neuroscience-y name for it is basically it's your sympathetic nervous system. So the opposite to the sympathetic nervous system is the parasympathetic nervous system. But yeah, it's where you're activating your sympathetic nervous system, which is where your fight and flight instincts are. So you're constantly looking for the next challenge or the next danger. And that's kind of where your thought process is. It's survival. So you're not really having chance to live life on purpose and to its full.
And it's a form of bondage. And so, you hear this a lot with people. They'll be tired, they're exhausted, they go to bed, and then boom, the monkey brain lights up, and they can't control their thoughts. And so if your thoughts are controlling you, that's a freedom issue, right? And it just affects your life over and over again. So let's jump into the next idea that we have here is the ability to live life on life's terms. Living your life on life's terms. So life has certain things, certain rules, if you will. I like to use gravity because everybody understands gravity. Gravity is a natural law. And so if you jump off a building, because you say, I want to be free, well, you're going to pay the consequences for that. And there's a number of natural laws in life. And so living within those natural laws might sound paradoxical, but it's a way of being free. Because if you're always fighting those natural laws, well, that's another sort of self-made prison. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, what's springing to mind for me is it's kind of like it's the one-up principle, isn't it? It's like whatever he or she says, then I've got to kind of be one up and one better than that. Whereas actually, if you just kind of just take a step back for a moment and kind of breathe, you know, life isn't one big competition where you've got to be bigger, better, faster than your neighbor.
Right.
So that's kind of what was coming up for me then. You know, when you're living life on life's terms. So in other words, you know, rather than somebody else's terms, it's your own terms. Don't know whether that's making sense, but that's kind of where I was going with.
I think that's, you know, that's a good working definition of autonomy. You know, living life by your own terms, but also acknowledging the fact that life has there's some natural laws and some natural order of things that if you run up against those, there's consequences.
Yeah, I guess said differently now. I've just had a moment to think about it. What I was meaning by that kind of one up is like it's not necessary. It's not always necessary for you to win. You know, I think that's what I'm saying. And we have this tendency as human beings to always want to be bigger, better, faster, and to win. And what I'm saying is, look, when you start to live your life on your own terms, that's when you have that ability to not necessarily always need to win and go one better. It's like, you know, life's good right now.
Yeah. You know, what you were saying makes me think about how people communicate oftentimes. You know, the one up, you know, somebody will tell a story and then the other person doesn't even really acknowledge the story or ask any questions about it. They just tell their own story. You know, they try to always kind of hijacking the conversation. But I think when you're really free, you're free to listen and hear people.
Yeah.
You can be settled to where you're just free to listen. You don't always have to be one-upping everybody around you. So
yeah,
that's an interesting aspect that you brought into that. Hey, let's jump into the next topic. And I kind of want you to take the lead on this, Steve, because you brought this up in our conversation the other day about cause and effect. And I thought it was a really interesting way, or an interesting way to express some things that I was already expressing. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so as you mentioned a moment ago, you know, we're both in the personal development industry, and one of the themes that I've come across, and I like to teach to everyone who I coach or train. It's an equation, and it's what I call the cause and effect equation. So what is the cause and effect equation? It's basically, you know, it's cause and then the greater than sign and effect. Yeah. And what that simply means is, you know, a majority of the planet, and as I'm saying this to you now, I want you to think about, you know, which side of the equation could you be on as I start to explain what it is. A majority of the planet, a majority of the population, they're on the effect side of the equation. And what that means is, you know, as life circumstances happen, they're at the effect of those. So it's almost, you know, whatever results they're getting or not getting often in their life, that's because it's something of an effect outside of them. So somebody else did that to me. So I didn't get that promotion because, you know, my boss hates me, or, you know, I didn't get this, I didn't do that, I didn't achieve this because of this. And there's the tip off, because. And it's almost like people who are on the effect side of the equation, it's almost like a blame culture. They're blaming something outside of them rather than themselves. So what the cause and effect equation is it's really for you to just think deeply, seriously now, and really deeply consider which side of the equation are you on. You know, are you blaming lack of results in your life and not being able to live on your own terms because of the effect of others outside of you, or a smaller population of the planet, and where I really invite you to consider moving your life to is being on the cause side of the equation. So what the cause side of the equation,
by the way, it's a very free area to live in, the cause side of the equation.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And only a small population of people on the planet actually live at cause. So what the cause side is you're causing, you know, all of the circumstances and the results in your life. So for example, you know, if you're on the effect side, it would be, oh, I didn't get that promotion because my boss doesn't really like me and he favored somebody else. That's being at cause. And, you know, you're putting blame outside of yourself for not getting the promotion. But when you're truly living life at cause, And again, I'm going to repeat this because it bears repeating. I really invite you to consider which side of the equation you are on. And if you're not on the cause side, consider moving over to the cause side. When you're at cause, you would be taking responsibility for that. So I didn't get that promotion because I didn't prepare well enough for it.
So I said something to you the other day.
My colleague who got the promotion probably prepared a little bit more than I did. That's being truly at cause and being responsible for your own actions. Sorry, Eric.
Yeah. So, I mean, because the other side of that is like being the victim. Like, oh, everybody hates me, or my boss hates me, you know, playing that victim mindset versus what you just said, that somebody else maybe had better preparation or better qualifications or whatever, and just kind of living with that and being okay. But I said something to you the other day when we were talking about this episode, kind of a working philosophy for me, which is everything is my fault.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this or watching us today, I want to challenge you to just say to yourself, everything is my fault, and just be quiet and see how that feels for you, because it might feel really strange, or you might be okay with it. But for me, what living by everything is my fault does for me is it allows me to live on that cause side of the equation. And if there's something I don't like, well, guess what? I get to change it. Like, I'm free to change it and live life the way that I want to.
Yeah, it's the beauty about living life on the cause side of the equation. When you live life on the cause side, look, occasionally, you know, you will make mistakes in life. You know, you will make a mistake, but you get an opportunity to learn something of value. So it's like, what did I learn from that? The learning of which I can take into the next step of moving in the direction of what I want to cause, you know, and results in my life. So just in summary there, the cause and effect. So people on the effect side of the equation, okay, they get reasons. They have reasons why their life sucks. People on the cause side of the equation, they're getting results. So again, you know, just to summarize there, just deeply consider as you've been listening to this, hopefully it's resonated with you, which side of the equation are you really on? Yeah.
And so we want to leave you with a couple of what we think can be powerful questions in your life if you really deal with them. And the first one is, can I control this? So really think, when you have something happening in your life, ask yourself, can I control it? If not, let it go.
Yeah, if I could add to that, Eric, I've got a little coaching model that I use, which I call it a circle of influence. So what is a circle of influence? If you can imagine right now, you've got a circle, and inside that circle is the word control. Okay, so everything that you can directly control in your life is in that circle. So I can control how I feel. I can control the decisions I make. So there's certain things that I'm fully in control of.
Right.
And then if you imagine another circle on the outside of that circle with the word influence in it. So what influence is, you know, there are some things that I cannot directly control, but I can have an influence on. So for example, I can't control, Eric, how you feel. The only person who can control how you feel is you. But I can have an influence on how you feel. I can possibly, you know, tell you a joke and make you laugh. So I can have an influence.
How I respond.
But there are no guarantees that I can control it. So this is what I call the circle of influence. You have things that you can control, things that you can influence. And then if you imagine everything outside of those circles, that's everything else in the world that you can neither control nor influence. But the key here is most people's thoughts, 95% of their thoughts, are outside of things that they can control or influence. And that's basically that they hijack their every waking thought. And that's where they spend a majority of their time, on things that they can't control or influence.
Yep. Not living life on life's terms. They're letting life dictate everything to them. So, all right. Any last thoughts as we wrap up?
That's a whole podcast in itself. And I think we'll probably expand on that in a new episode. But yeah, all I'd like to do now really is just suggest what's coming up, Eric. What's our next episode?
Yeah, so the next episode we're going to be talking, the title of it is called Don't Do That.
Ah, yeah.
So we're gonna dig into that. So don't do that. All right. So Perfect. Where can people find out all about us?
Easiest place to find out all about us is our website. So if you want to go to allieddads.com, that's where you'll find access to all of our resources. And again, if there is anything that you'd like us to discuss, maybe a topic which is close to your heart, that you'd like us to expand upon, and maybe have that conversation about our perspectives, these two dads on one mission, drop us a line, let us know what the topics are, and we'd be delighted to include it in a future episode.
Awesome. Steve, I appreciate you, and it's been a great episode. I hope if you're listening that you've gotten something powerful out of it for the rest of your day.
Yeah, same here. Look forward to speaking to you and seeing you on the next episode. And in the meantime, subscribe and like and find us on your favorite streaming channels.
Perfect. We'll see you later.